Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the summer series here at Cyclone Fanatic, courtesy of our friends at Ivy College of Business, who are huge supporters of everything we do here at Cyclone Fanatic. And, thankfully they're supporting this pod that I get
Shout
to
out.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, before we kick things off here with Aiden, who's my special guest today, want to let you guys know, if you don't know already, that we're going to be joining up with our friends at the We Will Collective for the Okoboji Golf Classic on Wednesday, July 31st. It's going to be a full day on the golf course. There's going to be food. There's going to be a huge auction at the dinner that night. There'll be a fun program done by Chris and Bloom, who I'm sure will do a fantastic job of entertaining
And
us.
I think Woody and Mahoney will both be there.
Both of
last I
them.
talked to him.
Okay. Well, if that's not an incentive to come.
Right.
And I believe we'll have some coaches, maybe some players.
It's going to be a big day.
Yeah. So you guys want to head over to wewillcollective.com/events so that you can secure your tickets now. If you're not able to get the day off from work, you can buy tickets to the dinner, which is the CF Roadshow portion of the night. So yeah, make sure to join us. It's going to be super fun. We did we did a variation of this last year, and it was probably my favorite thing we've ever done.
Yeah, it was fun because we didn't golf.
Yeah, Aiden and I are
we
not
just
golfers.
drove around all day in a golf cart.
Yeah, so Aiden and I will be doing that again. Crystal, if you're listening, secure a golf cart. But yes, we hope you guys can join us. Please do if you have the day off. If you happen to have the day off,
sure.
Taking PTO like I am. But anyways, like I said, Aiden, if you still somehow don't know who Aiden is, Aiden was our intern. I was trying to think of this morning, actually. How long were you our intern?
So I actually don't know when I officially started doing stuff with Cyclone Fanatic, but in December of 2022 is when I started with Iowa Everywhere. I actually ran into C-Dub at a game watch.
Fun.
And it was the Texas game, I think, of that year. And he had just started Iowa Everywhere and was like, I need someone to do production stuff. I'm like, I do that because I was working for Cyclones TV at the time, all the ESPN Plus stuff. And yeah, then it quickly turned into doing one show. I was brought on specifically to be Sage Rosenfeld's producer.
Okay.
That was my role. And then it turned into like, well, if you know how to do this, does that mean you can do that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, yeah, we can use your help on Cyclone Fanatic. And I don't think it was till after basketball season, though.
Okay. Well, I think when it comes to us sitting down for this, our stories are pretty similar. Like I was hired to be an intern to cover wrestling. And then it's like one day I'm sitting in Chris's living room as we're like having a powwow for the season. And suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, you should do social media. And here we are 7-8 seasons later.
Yeah. I feel like that's just kind of how everyone works with CETA. It's like, oh, well, if you can do this, you can do that.
Let's capitalize and let's see what else we can do.
So yeah, anyway, I think it was 9 months. Okay. Probably give or take. A couple months I was with CF before I went full time.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Even though I like how Chris called you intern Aiden.
Yeah, I still get intern Aiden. It was when we were in Kansas City. Okay. I don't know if you remember this. We're walking out after.
Someone called you intern Aiden.
And it was, hey, it's Jacqueline from Cyclone Fanatic and intern Aiden.
Yeah, I never really got the intern title. I don't know if to be sad about it.
Well, I think your internship was a little less public than mine was. Yeah. In terms of like when I was producing the show, I was just kind of there.
Yeah, and I really wasn't around and this will be brought good segue, right? Like when we were doing podcasts when I was an intern, they were not done the way they're done now. It's like there was never an opportunity for Chris to be like, oh yeah, intern Jacqueline sitting over here. It was like the most action I got as far as being near a podcast when I was an intern was when Chris and Bloom would do the weekly radio show we had. And at the time we did it at Whiskey River.
Okay, I was going to ask if it was the one that the Stas that I've heard.
Yeah, so literally it'd be like Chris and Bloom sitting at a table, the mixer, right? Is that what it's called? And that's it. And then they would plug it in and Chris would push the buttons and I would just sit nearby and like listen. So that's what they were doing back in the day. So, but yeah, like I said, I feel like our journey to where we are now as Cyclone Fanatic is very similar. And it ties in really to just how much this site has grown and how we do things at Cyclone Fanatic. And I'll toot our own horn in that I was saying this before, but I think that we are two people who were brought on who were able to bring in like these new elements to how we do our job at Cyclone Fanatics. So Crystal loves to talk about when it was just him and he did it all himself, right? Well, we don't have to do that anymore. And you can't. You just physically can't do it anymore. So yeah, before Chris was able to sit, write all his stories himself, and you could go and get video quickly on your phone and upload it. I don't even know how. I wonder if it was at YouTube or what he was doing back in the day. But thankfully, Aiden and I have been able to come in and kind of help elevate some of those things without sounding egotistical.
Well, I mean, just to dive into that quick, like stuff we did during March, where it was a freaking not to be like, oh, I work hard or anything.
No, but it was a zoo.
It was like the hour that followed games was just chaos because it was me and C-Dub going live. And then he would go to the locker room and send me 4, 5, 6 videos of whether it was TJ or players, whoever it was, and getting them on socials and YouTube like as fast as humanly possible.
I think our group chat, we have a Cyclone Fanatic group chat, and I swear it was like, who can edit, who can upload, who can start creating the shell for the website, who's going to post it on social media.
I mean, we did a mainly Big 12 tournament and NCAA tournament, but so that's what, 6 games, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
We were well-oiled machine by game 3.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we're doing.
Like, all right, at the buzzer, here's what everyone's role is. Which, yeah, I mean, March is a really good example, like you said, because when I first started, that's not at all what was happening. It was like Chris was packing his bag or like maybe Rob, and they'd get on a plane and then go write their columns, and then they'd come home. And I don't even remember what video was like. Like when I was an intern, one of the first times I did video at football media availability, they do every week during the season, I got handed like a camcorder with a normal mic. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it was like literally like the little camcorder. Just like, all right, Joel Lanning, what are you thinking for this weekend? And thankfully phones have evolved, so we can do a lot on our phones. A lot of that like quick hit video you guys see of interviews come from our phones. But I just think that the growth of Cyclone Fanatic, I mean, we talk about it a lot, but I mean, I don't know where you want to go, if you want to talk about your role first or mine, but
let's talk about your role first.
You want me to go first? When I started, so the big thing was Instagram, right? So just to give.
Wait, what year did you start?
Oh gosh, 2018.
Year of our Lord, 2018.
What?
Year of our Lord, 2018.
Yeah, I think it was 2018 that I like officially joined in, and it's like I did my summer internship, and once I got home, I went to Chris's house for that summer powwow. And so at the time, it was like the team was, writing the stories. Rob was around at that time to, you had your Rob columns, and there was weekly availability video, but that was like really it. And like our YouTube was there as like a house for the video.
Yeah, I've looked back and gone down some rabbit holes of what our YouTube used to be.
Yeah. And that's what it was.
Very different from
what it is now. Yeah. It was just like, you just had this like place where we put them, and then we were putting them in posts, and then they just get shared out. And it's kind of crazy to me because obviously people have been fiercely loyal to Cyclone Fanatic, but like the way we have evolved is just like insane to me. So like I said, it was very much pretty straightforward, and same with wrestling. Like wrestling's, I think, a really good example of how much I've personally evolved. It was like, write your recap. That's what Chris told me. Write a recap, write a preview. Go see Dresser every week. And that was it.
It was just, your role was basically just be there.
Yep. Like, go. I didn't even get told to ask questions, I think, when I was an intern. I don't know if I even said a word to Kevin Dresser that first year because I was so scared. But it was just like, yeah, very, very straightforward, very, very small amount of coverage, I feel like, compared to what we can do now. And as time went on and I got more comfortable in my own role, social media quickly became like And even in the last 2 years, it's just evolved so much because we went from sharing a link to now we're feeding, the videos all over the feed. Like March, I think, is when we did it the best. You had video from the locker room immediately on your feed. And we didn't have that before. Or like instead of tweeting like the quote of what Campbell said, which is still something we still do, you still get the quotes, but now we're also providing you like the quick clips of them. Like you said, they're coming out before TJ probably makes it out of the locker room.
And it's one thing too to read a quote and to actually hear them say it and like see
the context, the body language. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So it's like we've been able to evolve how we're pumping out access to these teams. And I think wrestling's a really good one because I don't think there was anything for wrestling besides like news releases and the occasional story. But like now we have videos of every single athlete we get access to. You're getting videos of them, you're getting to know them, and you're getting to really see them in their element in these situations. And then with social media, the picture thing, I think, became a really big thing, me doing photos. Because now not only do you have the team in the press box who are bringing you, tweets that are play-by-plays, and you're getting Chris's thoughts during the game, and you're getting their post-game stories. And then, now we've evolved and we're doing halftime and we're doing pre-game and post-game. But now we're also doing photos. Whereas before, Chris can correct me, but as far as I know, we've never had someone doing photos consistently. We're very fortunate to have a partnership with USA Today where we use a lot of their images. But like now we were able to elevate Cyclone Fanatic as a business, and now we have our own pictures. Now we have our own like way of showing like not only are we going to write about like Keyshawn Gilbert making the shot, but I was able to be there and get a picture of it, and it's ours and it's unique.
Right.
So like I feel like that's something else that really elevated the coverage, because now not only are you getting the story, like Rob is really good about this. He writes awesome columns after football games just describing like the magic of it all. But now we can add in, now we have photos to go with it that are unique to moments that people aren't going to see if they're not down on the field. So that's been a really fun thing to do. And I mean, the shows themselves, even before you got here, we started doing them, and that's elevated a whole new access to Chris himself. Like he's been on the radio for years, but then it was like we finally had a way for him to continue to use that skill at Cyclone Fanatic specifically.
Yeah.
So those post games and those pre games and the preview halftime, I mean, the numbers for those are crazy. Like I think sometimes for those away games, it'll be like halftime starts and Chris will have like 8,000 people watch him talk for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we I think after the Illinois game in Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I can't remember what happened, but he couldn't get on until it was a late tip, first of all. That's what it was. I think me and him went live at like 1 or 1:30, and there were 4,000 people watching.
I was going to say, I can pull it up. I have numbers.
And that was across Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
I have numbers just for Facebook. But like, again, the access that fans now have to not only Iowa State. So like Kansas State is my favorite one to look at because that's just such a heavy anticipated game. And I mean, last season we were gifted the snow game. For Facebook, the post game, CDUB had, and this is just like reach. So like this is just like not necessarily the exact amount of people that were in there, but the number for that game was 12,800.
That I didn't know that number was that high.
Yeah. And that's the Kansas State game. Like the Iowa game's always high. Pre-game numbers always a little higher, unfortunately. But like we're talking like you're seeing numbers of like an average of 5,000 to 6,000, and that Chris is just hopping on. And it used to be really, really like you said, it wasn't always the fanciest. It was like Chris hitting play on his webcam, and you might get grainy film from the press box with no cool banners. It was just like his face on your screen.
It was like a one-end Zoom call, basically.
Yeah. And now we've been able to evolve that even more, which is crazy. But when you look at Iowa State coverage as a whole, I think we've been very fortunate to like elevate it. And those are just some of the things that I think of. And I think this is really important in the what sports are as a business, because not only is it continuing to evolve with, obviously we talk about NIL all the time, but our access to these teams and what you're doing with it. And I feel like we've done a really good job of like, okay, let's find a way to really capitalize on all this stuff we have. And wrestling, I do wrestling myself. So that one's a little different for me because I can talk about it differently. Cause it's like now not only am I writing post dual stories, but it's like we're seeing 3 athletes and a coach every week. So you have video every single week. You'll always know what coaches are saying. Or like we get to go and see them during the duel. So again, the photos. Now you're getting photos of every single duel and every single guy on the team. And March is a really good example. Like before, at least when I started, no one was traveling for the Big 12. And it was just like, okay, how do we elevate Cyclone Fanatic and their wrestling coverage? Well, now I'm on site and I'm doing all of these interviews, just Matt's side with the coaches, the wrestlers. We're getting photos, we're getting video of the day and what's happening behind the scenes. Whereas before, you're just not really getting any of that. And when you look at the business side of it, how does wrestling, again, a good example, how does wrestling grow as a business? Well, you need people to cover it so that people have a reason to follow it. And that's like a really good example, because I've gotten a lot of feedback of, oh, I used to not really follow wrestling, but since you guys post so much and I see all your stuff, I've started to find it a lot more interesting.
Funny how that works.
I know. So, but I will say, as far as like social media growth, I think Instagram's my favorite, just because that was like the one that was my child when I came in.
That was like, you didn't even let me touch it for a while.
Did I give you the password?
Yeah, I have it now, but I remember even Chris was like, don't ask about Instagram. Jacqueline's a little protective about it.
Well, it's grown, right? And a big part of how do you keep our website alive is we have to be able to market it, right? And before it was like, you couldn't sell the Instagram because it was bare bones. But thankfully I've been able to grow it. And I think that's why I'm just so like protective of it, because it's like, Instagram, I think, is the hardest because it's so hard to convince people to follow your pictures.
Well, it's so hard too, because I mean, there is the discover page, but it's not, it doesn't have the algorithm of Facebook, even though it's the same meta, whatever. It doesn't have the algorithm of TikTok, where it's like you can just be scrolling and randomly find content, you know? Like Instagram, I think it's gotten better in terms of stuff will pop up on your page now. But yeah. And I mean, Twitter's the same way, where it just randomly pops up. Instagram doesn't really have that.
No. And it like fights against you. And I think when I started, I want to say it was like really low. It was like in 2,000 or 4,000 followers. And now we're over 12 and a half. We're 12,500. Really want to see that grow this year. That'll be a big goal, I think, for me. But it was just like, you have to curate it and you have to be really intentional about what you post and make sure that it's what people want. And so being able to sit here today to say like, oh, we went from being an Instagram account that got like, I don't know, like 5 likes and 3 of them were our staff. It's like really fulfilling to look at this. I was looking at numbers the other day, but just this past football season, I mean, we had a reach of 44,000 and that's all organic. Like we're not paying for that, which is a whole different side of marketing and, media that can be a different episode for a different day. But like people have to keep in mind that a lot of it's organic. We're not doing anything except trying to put our heads together and market our work the best way that we can. So I trust you now. It's okay.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Putting that on my resume.
So again, Cyclone Fanatic coverage has grown. Our podcast network has always been, I think, what makes us different other than our message board. I think our message board is also very a big key thing with how, consistently popular it has stayed and people just keep showing up to talk in it. I think our network is what has really set us apart, not even just in Iowa State coverage, I think in the state of Iowa. And I feel like having the opportunity to bring you on really helped us elevate it.
Thanks.
I know, it's a pat on the shoulder, because not only did you come in and help us improve the product, right? Like the sound quality is better on the one-offs, right? We have one-off
Right.
days where nothing wants to work.
Oopsies.
But it was like one of those things where I remember it was like sports are evolving, people are hungrier than ever. How do we keep this product that has been successful for us over the years getting better? Like, how do you make people sitting down to talk better? And I feel like it was pretty clear to us that like video was important.
Yeah.
And you were able to bring that in.
I
So like
tried.
now people are seeing our faces all the time.
Right,
On a
which,
weekly basis.
unfortunately for me, I have a face for behind the scenes.
Oh,
So
shut up. So it's just been like insane to see how Cyclone Fanatic Network has grown when it was already big. And I don't say that with an ego. It's just kind of we've been very fortunate that we have a very loyal following, and we have people who do a really good job of covering the Cyclones and bringing quality podcasts. But I mean, talk about growing it and, you know, coming in and doing all of this video production that you are doing.
yeah, it took a little bit to convince C-Dub to go on YouTube, but you know, being only 22, like my generation of people, we like to watch things.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of podcasts. Like
Okay.
it was pretty rare that I listened to them. It is now. I don't really listen to them. If I watch them, like that, or if I consume them, I'm watching them most of the time.
Yeah.
So I told Chris, like, we need to start getting on YouTube. And I didn't want it to be like a one-off thing where it was like some days we put it on YouTube, some days we don't.
Right.
But it was kind of that the first couple months that I was here, where it was sometimes it was just easier to do audio only or whatever. And yeah, where I remember Chris sometimes, if I wasn't producing a show, he just wouldn't put it on YouTube. I'm like, man, we got to put it on YouTube. And so yeah, it's been crazy to see the growth of it. Just having it, basically, it's an appointment for people on YouTube. Like they know every Tuesday we're gonna have Kicking It. Shout out the boys.
Yeah.
And it's almost gotten to the point where we have as many people watching it as we do listening. It's still probably 2/3 podcast listeners.
Yeah.
But it's crazy what it's come to over the last year or so.
According to Spotify, from their creators, year over year, they've seen nearly a 70% growth in video use, which is insane. And you're right. You younger folks do love video. I always call people, oh, are you a YouTube kid?
Yes.
I wasn't. I am now. I think TikTok is to blame for that. But it also, I think, just made me more aware of how much it's made it to where we can really connect with people in a way we weren't able
you're
to
absolutely
before.
Right. It's like it means a lot more to see someone's face.
Right. Especially I think when it comes to Iowa State coverage, right? It's like, yeah, you can read someone's column for so long, but imagine, and you know, you have their little picture.
Right.
I think of Randy Peterson and probably Rob. I should ask Rob about that. Their like little headshot in their newspaper clipping, but like, unless you went out of your way to look for us, you didn't know what any of us looked like at Cyclone Fanatic. Yeah. Like you said, nobody knew that I really existed unless they were like in wrestling, like deep in there, or they just happened to see me with Chris.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was the last time we were at the golf outing. He posted a picture of me, and people were like, who is that?
Whom? No, and again, to flip it, it was like this year when we went to Kansas City, there were like people stopping me. Yeah. And I was like, what the heck? Like, why is this happening? This never happens. I think it's literally because people are able to see my face now on podcasts. Yeah. And before, nobody knew what the heck I looked like because
changed the game.
I know. And it's just become an extremely like I think any business, any sports media publication that is covering sports has to have video. Yeah. You just can't. And if you don't, you're behind. And I think that's like a hard part of our industry, but a constant thing every year is like, as Chris says, adapt or die. So you should have told him that when he was like acting against you too.
Yeah, it was probably before he drilled that into me every 3 days or whatever it is now, you know?
Well, and I think, like you said, it just makes a difference to the coverage. You're now putting like Whereas before you just click on the ESPN link and you don't even know who wrote it. Whereas now we're kind of really focused on who said it. And I think in Iowa, especially with college athletics, it's really important to people who wrote it, who's doing the video, who's talking about the sport in order for people to buy in. And thankfully, again, we're very lucky that we have a loyal following. So it's being able to put video, I think, into our coverage has really made people even more loyal. And not even just about us. I mean, look at the premium boards. Look at the town halls.
Right.
That's something that you don't get just anywhere for free. Like, it's really difficult to get, and football is the best example. It's really hard to get coaches to do interviews, let alone get them to sit down on camera.
Yeah.
And you guys have been doing that this summer, which is crazy to me because I don't feel like that was like when I first started, it'd be like, oh, Chris got an in. He's going to do an interview with said coach and he's going to go sit in his office and we'll get an episode in a week.
And now it's like we have an entire summer series based around interviewing coaches and players and all that fun stuff.
Which this is, again, it's all a business, right? Like, it's great that we can have these relationships with these coaching staffs to where it's easy to hit them up and be like, all right, we should do this. But like, this is in their best interest too.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a great recruiting tool. This is a great way to have fan buy-in because now fans can see all the coaches. Like, Iowa State now has all of their coaches on camera doing a great interview. You know, people can see.
It's different from a press conference.
Yeah.
Like, it's a totally different setting.
Different vibe.
Yeah.
You don't have Matt Schultz next to you, probably.
Right.
Shout out to Matt. He's what is his official title? Like director? I think he's the director of comms. I can't remember.
Wig. Anyway.
Yeah, but he's at the top. But yeah, a press conference is way more formal. You know, coach is up on the podium and everybody else is sitting in their seats and you take turns with a mic. Whereas this is so much more, you know, intimate. Yeah. It's high definition. It was at the stadium. Again, you get to highlight their facilities. It's a really good, I think, the best thing that could have happened for both media publications and the teams because it just elevated everything. And like you said, everybody wants to watch video.
Right. And with players too, in the era that we live in, you want to market yourself. So like, again, it just kind of helps both parties involved. So
yeah. We're talking numbers. Do you have numbers to share? Give a little insight. Maybe not all the numbers.
I don't have a ton of numbers in front of me, to be honest with you.
But
I know you do.
I do. I have plenty. I mean, I had some numbers pulled up from years past, but I mean, just for an example, something that Aiden and I were geeking out about, it's like, as fans, our most successful month in terms of like social coverage was November for football season. If that tells you where your guys' heads were at, like our content on our Twitter alone, like just tweets being seen by people, interacted with, shared, it was in the month of November, we had over 6.2 million impressions, which is crazy.
That is a crazy number.
like that's just in 1 month. And we have 42,000 followers on Twitter. And so to give perspective on that. And again, it's all organic. We didn't pay to boost any tweets, like none of those stories. We just simply pushed them out.
Yeah.
So it's just like, again, it is crazy how much people are on social media consuming all of this stuff, especially in November. And I definitely look at, of course, crossover season starts, right? But like, I'm telling you, that Kansas State game was like a game changer for social media.
Well, yeah, especially a game like that where I think a snowstorm had rolled in that week.
Yeah.
So pretty much everyone was at home for everything that we did for that game.
Away games obviously definitely help. And we have found ways to elevate away game coverage because we don't always travel to everything. Which has been really fun because then it kind of keeps like the game day feels going all season versus, oh, we're not ejectorized today. Because that's what it used to feel like. It used to feel like, oh, the game is away, so I have nothing to do today.
Yeah.
Whereas like now it's like, no, we have plenty, almost as much
Yep.
work to do. But it's been fun. And this past March was insane for our team. I mean, I'm so glad that Iowa State did as well as it did in
Yeah,
terms
right.
of, I mean, Iowa State wrestling won the Big 12 conference. Iowa State men's basketball won the Big 12 conference. Iowa State women were on a tear and did
Made it to
great.
the
Yeah,
finals.
they did great stuff as well. So we definitely had a lot of reasons to be covering, but I mean, people were eating this stuff up. Like the moment we would share something, people were on it. And those, I think of the locker room videos. Like those aren't always things that we had, especially just in terms of, I know in professional sports, locker room interviews have always been around, but in college, it's a little different. And I saw some people making the argument that we should have open locker room during the regular season. And I agree. I think it would be so
Yeah, I'm not
great.
sure the reasoning behind
I don't know.
why it changes.
Right.
Whatever direction they want to do it is fine, but
Mhm.
it's a little weird that they whatever.
Well, I think it's just, again, smart business, right?
Right,
You're
yeah.
giving people access to your athletes, and it makes them love them more, and it makes them want to go to games.
Yeah, I mean, and you get that raw emotion in locker rooms. You get it sometimes in press conferences,
Right.
but when it's in the locker room right after a game, whether it's, the highs or the lows,
Yeah.
you kinda get all of it,
Yeah.
which is I
I
think is really cool.
I agree. It's kind of like at the national tournament for wrestling. They line up the walls in the back hallway with like backdrops, and then they just have chairs. And if a wrestler gets
Smart.
off a mat and he
Yeah.
wants to talk to you, go to the chair. It's none of that like, all right, guys, here's two guys we specifically
Yeah.
picked in the locker room who agreed to chat with you. So, no, I think not only has the way we cover the game changed, but I think the way teams are allowing us to cover it has definitely evolved. And I think with NIL, it's also kind of encouraged players to kind of take control of
Yeah,
that and
absolutely.
be more open to it on their own too, right? Like they can do those interviews. And if it's if it's the postseason or not the postseason, the off season, who's going to stop them
Yeah.
now? And it's only boosting their support, all eyes on them. It only helps them get more NIL deals.
Yeah.
Because look at the Iowa pork one. Like that was a really good way of taking four guys that maybe not everyone would have known their names, but now you do.
Yeah.
Or like I think of Conrad on the basketball team.
Yeah.
Like
CEO.
how much we've been able to see a rise in popularity from him from being able to show so much of his personality. So, and same thing with like younger.
Yeah.
Like casual fans or like non-wrestling fans would probably have no idea that Younger's this like monster who's just lifting 200, 300
Just a
pounds.
freak of nature.
Yeah, like I'm going to say 200. 300's excessive. 200-pound men over his shoulder like nothing. So it just, again, the business has changed and it's like you have to evolve on both ends.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun to see how Iowa State does that. And I think it's fun that we have all these interviews happening this summer because I don't think Chris has ever had so many interviews with the team itself leading up to the season. So again, talk about building hype.
Right. I also did pull up some YouTube numbers.
Ooh, fun.
I mainly have one that I want to share. So last year, year of 2023, we had 533.6 thousand views over the entire year.
Yeah.
This year, so January through July, we have 665.8 thousand views.
It's just like, literally, it's just like.
So we've already passed what we had last year, which is crazy.
Well, it's like I was sharing with Aiden a number. And again, these are numbers that truly reflect the way that not only we're doing a better job as a staff of really putting our work out there for you guys, but we've also increased what you can consume. So it's not just a story you can read, but it just shows how hungry people are and how much like farther we're reaching people, which is really exciting. And it was like one of the numbers I was sharing with you was the month the growth between August and September, so heading into football season, in 2022, we saw 54% growth on Facebook. Facebook's a really good one. People probably roll their eyes, younger people, and think, oh, Facebook, lame. But it's our
I'm
most
not a Facebook guy.
it's our most popular social platform. And so, like I said, we saw a 54% jump in just like how many times people were sharing, clicking, reading, commenting in general. So 54% growth. And then going into the season last year, we saw 514%
Yeah.
growth.
Which sounds like a made up number.
It's not made up. I swear. It is insane how much this is growing. And I can't even imagine what like ESPN's numbers are like.
Yeah.
Or like, I bet On3 has really good numbers too. Or I don't know. I'd be so curious what we look like in comparison to like who's considered our competitors in the Iowa State market. But just like the way people are consuming content is just insane. And it's been fun to see how Iowa State has, like evolved to allow coverage to change. And then how Chris has really been, at the head of it, of how do we build a team to build a good product. And I think we're doing pretty good.
Dream team.
Obviously I'm older than you because we love to make jokes about how old we are. I would love to get your just like takeaways of sports coverage and sports media, and what that experience has been like now that you're headed into your second season.
It's a loaded question.
I know. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I feel like written media has definitely changed. When I was growing up, all I wanted to be was a sports writer.
Yeah.
Like literally second grade, I think I remember my teacher said I couldn't write about sports anymore when we had our little writing time.
Okay.
Like I was so gung-ho. That's all I was going to be growing up.
Okay.
And then I got to college and I was like, you know what? I don't know that there's really a career anymore. Like being that kind of sports writer that I wanted to be growing up, the way that I wanted to do it anyway. So when I started with Cyclones TV, it like opened a different realm of possibilities. I saw a totally different side of sports that I had never seen before. I was like, oh, the digital media
that's where it's at.
That's where this world is going. It's digital everything. So yeah, going into year 2, I feel like I will be less overwhelmed. That's about all I have to say about it is now that I know what I'm getting into. Last year it was kind of I got thrown into the wolves a little bit, but I remember I had to sit down with C-Dub, like, I think it was this basketball season when it seemed like it was never going to end.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And yeah, he obviously talked me into it's going to be fine.
Taking a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the biggest thing for year 2 is like, now I know the routines of everything. And what people expect and what we can expect from our end to be able to cover and all that kind of stuff. But what do you think has changed for you over the last, 6 years?
Yeah, a lot of years. I think it's kind of similar to you. I really wanted to be a writer. I think it's the hardest thing that I do as Cyclone Fanatic because it's the hardest in that when I sit down to write, I immediately get in my head. I get really stressed about how to write. And it was just kind of like you. It was like, oh, I want to be a writer. And then I started writing. I was like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to do this full time. And again, similar to you, it was like Chris and I were sitting together one day and he was just like, that your like best qualities are the things you do with social media. Like that's what you're good at. Like that's your greatest strength and that's going to get you a full-time job. And I was just like, oh. And so over time, he's right. It is what I'm good at. I feel like if there's anything I'm confident at when it comes to Cyclone Fanatic is that I can look at our social feeds and I can tell you exactly what we need to do to improve it. And I feel confident in the knowledge I have with it now.
See, that's why I ask you for like literally everything. So I admire you a lot on what you do for socials.
It's just, it just like took so many years of getting to know our audience and what people want. And then you just kind of start to figure out how the algorithms work. And CETA buys me books every every year, that are very focused on that. And it's definitely the fun part of it. It's like, how do we keep people satisfied?
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to just share a story. And it's also crucial because we need to do it so that someone like Rob and Connor are successful too, because they're writing these great columns and writing so much information. And if we haven't figured out how to market it, we're failing them. Yeah, we're failing them. And it's like, no, we got to step up. And so on the tune of shout out to the Ivy College of Business, I always say that looking back, my greatest regret was not getting a marketing degree.
I got a business minor. See, it's the best I could do.
I had an English minor. Yeah.
Doesn't do as
silence.
Much, unfortunately.
Silence. No, I do, because I think it would have been really good to have just so much more knowledge of like all these numbers that people are probably like, oh, screw your numbers. But like, no, it's just, it's all very valuable, and it's what's made it so that we can do CF the way we have.
Yeah.
So
that's my best advice. I know that C-Dub says it's his best advice, but my best advice for any journalism student, so you have to get a minor.
Yeah.
Just get in general business. Like I've had people like freshmen that come talk to me.
Anything like, in there.
They're like, what should I get for a minor? Do I want to do something easy or something that I'll actually use? I'm like, if you want to actually use it, do general business. You can take a handful of classes across the board. And it was like, one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah, I wish I had. But that's okay.
Well, I mean, they have their master's program.
I was going to say, it's not too late, technically. I could go back to college.
College, woo!
Oh, gosh, I can imagine being a student again. No, I'm excited. I'm really excited. We're so close to a kickoff in August, end of August. It's like, what, August 31st or something?
Well, I mean, Chris texted us
like yesterday and
yesterday
football season.
Football season starts in an hour.
I am really excited for everyone to see what, we've got cooking at Cyclone Fanatic. I feel like we're about to enter our best season in terms of the product.
Yeah, because I mean, part of it is me. Like now that we have our system down, we know what we're doing. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Mainly. It's gonna be it's gonna be a well-oiled machine, I think. And we have some more stuff behind the scenes cooking. So
yeah, like I'm really excited. I'm excited, and I feel like everything is in a position to empower everyone to do their job as like well. So I'm excited for football season. I'm excited to be back on the field. I had to think about it. I was like, what was my thought? Do you have any final thoughts? Was this fun? Did you have fun?
This was very fun. Thank you for having me. I used to be on this side of the camera.
I know. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, it's like we love Iowa State Cyclones, right? And everybody's hungry to see what everyone's pumping out, but it takes work.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out how do we do it and do it really well. And that's something I always say to Chris. If we're going to do new things, that's great, but we have to do it well.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see how we do it well now that, like you said, I think we're all pretty well oiled this time.
Yeah.
Compared to last season, I felt like we were ready to tackle the season and do all these new things that we hadn't done before. And I feel like we figured it out this time.
It was almost a new era of what we were doing last year. And now that we have things kind of ironed out a little bit.
Yeah, we added like people to the network.
Yeah.
And again, video for podcasts has been game changer for us. That's all you.
Thanks.
Well, guys, I will be back. Rob Gray is going to join me.
Man,
I'm so excited. He and I will deep dive into his very long career, unlike Aiden and I, who are still under 10 years. Aiden's under 5, under 3. As always, like I said, shout out to our sponsor, the Ivy College of Business. Thank you, Aiden. I really appreciated you joining me, and I really hope you had a good time behind the camera or in front of the camera, unlike other times. So thanks for listening, guys.